Hi everybody, this is Gregg Weldon. Welcome back to another episode of Winning with Data. I'm the Chief Analytics Officer here at AnalyticsIQ, and what I want to talk about today is all of our new variables we have for the second quarter of 2018. We call it Build 77, and we've got a lot of new things for you to take a look at. Lots of new variables, lots of new items to go over. So let's go ahead and get started. Start, of course, with our quote of the quarter. This is so many activities. It's making my head spin how many activities we can do. That's, of course, from Will Ferrell and Step Brothers. And why would we use this quote for this quarter? Well, this is all about different activities and different items and events and hobbies and interests. We've got a lot of them for you this month. So here's what happens. As I've mentioned before, we always wanted to go over our variables, validate them on a regular basis, and make sure that we have the best variables available. So a few months ago, we did a very large validation on all of our hobbies and interest variables, interest IQ and purchases IQ. Internally, we call them our D3 variables. No real reason for it, we just do. There's about 186 of them. And we wanted to test these against some real life data, against some survey information to make sure that they're all working very well. We've had them for quite a few years. Of the 186, we found that there were about 23 of them that were okay. Not great, they were okay. They had flattened out over the years somewhat, so they were still predictive, but the accuracy was not as high as we prefer here. So what we did is we conducted two new surveys, a big survey for development, as well as a secondary survey, out-of-time survey for validation of all the variables we're going to build. And that's what we have here today. We're going to present these 23 new variables, updated version 2 variables for you. And again, it covers a wide range of things. So let's take a look at what we got. What's new for quarter 2, 2018? Well, here we go. And we're going to go into great detail on every single one of these. Well, not quite. Basically what we had to do, though, was we wanted to go ahead and, these are all yes-no variables, right? We wanted to make sure, how well do they validate? And then when we build our new variables, how well do those compare to the old ones? So we built brand new models on all of these variables. And these are yes and no variables. So when we first built them and validated, what we wanted to make sure was when we do a matrix of the old version 1 with the version 2 ones, we want to look at the swap sets. Some people were saying were yeses, for instance, pet owners. They were a yes before. Now they're a no. And some people were no before, now they're yes. So that swap set, is that swap set more accurate now than it was before? In each case, the answer is yes. Also, what we found that some variables, the correlation between the old and newer was fairly high. Some was surprisingly low. We also wanted to make sure that the population percents made sense. So for instance, we don't want to say, according to our data, only 18% of people own dogs in America. We know it's a lot higher than that. And we want to make sure that our yeses meet actual real life information. So if 57% of people own dogs, we want to have our variable to show 57% of people own dogs. I think that 57% actually works for pets, total pets, but there's a lot of people who have dogs as well. So a lot of logic checking, not just building the model, but also double checking, looking at if this makes sense. Why is this number so low? Let's check the internet. Oh, that's the way it actually is. So we'll make sure all our variables make good logical sense, good common sense, and they're going to be predictive and accurate. And that's what we've done in each one of these variables. They are yes, no's. Now, with us, of course, we always like more and more variables. And what we've had over in the past is a lot of success with those variables that go from 1 through 7. 7's being very, very likely of being something, and 1 being very little likely of being something, and 2 through 6 in between. So what we've done is we've actually added those variables as well. So for instance, we not only have dog owner V2, we've also have, which is the yes, no, we also have an LT for life trends, dog owner V2, which goes from 7 to 1. 7 means they're definitely a dog owner. 1 means they probably are allergic to dogs. And our score was divided into 7 groups: 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is very useful because sometimes you may want a yes/no field. I want dog owners versus non-dog owners. So there are other times where it's like, you know something, I want to be able to adjust that number. It's not all yeses and nos. Maybe I want just the top 25% people. So maybe I'll take the 6s and the 7s for dog owners. Those are the 25% of people who definitely own dogs. Or maybe I'm going to take the bottom 2 groups, 1 and 2, definitely don't own dogs. The rest I'll have is a maybe. You can do a lot of different things like that. If you're using our variables for modeling, which is what we do for ours, sometimes having 1 through 7 is really good for drawing your dummy variables. So you can have several different, that variable may be a very nice trend for something you're trying to predict. So you can use that in your model. So you have the option for both, the yes, no, or the 1 through 7. Each one of these variables, we also do the Z4 version. As always, the Z4 version is a percent of the people in that zip4 that actually are a yes for that. So dog owner V2 Z4 is what percentage of people who live in that particular Z4 actually own a dog. So that stayed pretty much the same. So let's go through the variables and see what we've got. First, we're looking at sports enthusiasts. And we have a wide range of these variables: boating and sailing fans, aerobic exercise, running and jogging, golf fans, hunting fans, motorcycling fans, NASCAR fans, and auto and motorcycling racing spectators. The golf fans was one that a lot of our clients have asked us for identifying groups of people. So these are all, again, the version 1s, which you have now, are all fine. These are a decent amount better. In travel preferences, we have 2. We have domestic travel and international travel. And I'm just noticing this photo that we've got here. Wow, that's a weird looking dude in that picture. That's just some clip art, I guess we picked up for that. But that guy looks like a serial killer from the 70s. I think with those glasses. I don't know. That's terrible. I don't think this is real family either. He definitely has person of interest written all over him. That's like the before picture of one of those grisly documentaries on A&D. But anyway, I hope he doesn't use our international or domestic travel variables. Anyway, so those are the 2 travel variables. Sorry about that. Pet owners, we have cat owners, dog owners, pet owners, and then other pet owners. Now, other pet owners is kind of an interesting category. I was curious about this myself. It involves birds, fish, turtles, and small caged animals, which would be like gerbils and hamsters and ferrets and rabbits and things like that. So in case you were wondering, that those are any other kind of pet. So that's kind of interesting. Next, we have purchase-based interest. We have plus-size women's apparel, crafts and hobbies merchandise buyers, gardening fans, home and garden, religious magazines, and then senior adults in household. And finally, we have professionals at work. We have career improvement. And then these next 2 variables are a little bit different. The African American professionals was a yes/no variable, and we didn't have that included in our survey, but we have a couple other variables that I figured we could use to create this, recreate this variable. We used a combination of our ethnic IQ V2, which is tested very well in terms of accuracy, as well as jobs IQ. So we're able to take those 2 variables and combine them to get the new version of African American professionals. While I was doing that, I said, you know, we don't have a Hispanic professional variable. So why don't I do the same type thing using the same variables to create that? So this is a brand new variable, the Hispanic professionals. Now, these 2 professional variables do not have the 1 through 7 option for them because we're looking at 2 different aspects and combining them together. We didn't know how would you range from 7 down to 1. Does a 6 mean you're less Hispanic or you're less professional, and how's that rank with a 5? It was too complicated, so we just left that out. So it's just a yes, no, and then the Z4 version. Now, the last thing we did was we also, aside from all the activities variables, we also created a new length of residence in years variable. This is one of our bread and butter variables, and this is a variable that we found works really well in the mid-range, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, 15 year, 20 year even. We're a little light in terms of predictability on the people who just moved into their homes, as well as how long someone's lived in a home for a really, really long time. We couldn't really tell much between 20 and 25 years, or 25 and 30 years, which some people needed for some of their work. So we came with a new series of models. We also got a new data source. So they would take our existing data and merge it with the new data and see what matched, what didn't match. When they match, it's fantastic. It works terrific all the time. When they don't match, then what are we going to do? How do we best come up with a solution that's going to give us the best predictability on this? So we managed to solve that problem. Now, 30 years, 35, that's great. Now, I will say this, when you get to 45, 50, or 55 years, we're not going to be exact in terms of the number of years. It may not be 50 years in the house, it may be 49 years in the house. Because you're looking at like less than 1% of the population who've lived in a house that long. So at that point, the numbers will tail off a little bit in terms of accuracy, but we know they're really, really way up there. We just don't know the exact number of years for how long they're up there. Now, some of the numbers are very high, and one wag here in the office suggested, oh, Greg, you've built a model that predicts people who are 130 years old because they've lived in their house for 87 years. Some people are going to be misclassified, but you have to remember that there's a sizable group of people out there, I've known many personally, who've lived in their homes for a really, really long time. They didn't buy their house 87 years ago, obviously, but their parents or even their grandparents either bought the house or built the house by hand 87 years ago. There are a lot of people in the country who passed their houses down from one generation to the next. So someone may have been born and raised in a house, and now they own the house, and they're raising their children in the house, and they intend to pass the house down to their children when they die. So I think we're able to capture some of those people that we may have been, well, we definitely were missing before because of our new work. It's, again, very tiny group of people, but I think it is an interesting group that depending on what you're trying to predict may come in very handy. I also think if you combine that with generations in household, which is another one of our fields, you may get some interesting results. Again, another tiny group of people. But anyway, I want to put it out there as an option for you. Something that should be fairly useful. I like those kind of little detailed things. I like finding little tiny groups of people and trying to identify them and piecing together with other things to see if you can come up with new tools. That's just kind of the fun part for me. So length of residence is AIQ LOR V2, and it is the number of years. It goes from 0 on up. I think 87 was one of the highest numbers we had. So that's going to be it. Again, here's our list of variables. It's quite a few. It's all these variables. 22 of them, again, have a 1 through 7 version as well, with LT in front of them. They all have a Z4 component as well. So that's over 65 new variables this time. So that's I think, a record for us. I don't think we've ever come with that many new variables in one of these quarters before. So I think they're really good ones. And hopefully there's something you can use. But give them a try. They're going to be called the V2 variables, of course. Give them a try. See if you're using any of the existing ones, try these out. See if they work better for you. See if they come into your models. And let us know how they work. So finally, we just say thank you. If you need to contact me or any of our salespeople, here's the information you need. And we will see you next quarter. This is Gregg Weldon saying goodbye for now.